Hi, everyone. I am Amy Stevens, a Keep Indiana Learning Innovation Coach, here with special guest Paul Shircliff from Bloomington, Indiana, the proud, man behind the wheel of the Uplands Maker Mobile. Together, we are here to share more with you about being a maker. And knowing the two of us, I picked up this little ribbon for my name tag yesterday. Sometimes a little bit of a troublemaker in all the good ways, right? Talking about adding a maker space to any classroom. And I just am thrilled to be able to bring this conversation to you all today. Paul, hello and welcome.
Hello, Amy. How was the conference yesterday?
It was so great. It's always wonderful to finish up your school year and then quickly jump into some learning that it doesn't erase like the year before. It just it rejuvenates you and it just allows you to propel forward and just think about, what's possible when you're around some great educators. So please share with us a little bit about yourself and your EDU story. And if you don't mind, please include a bit of a definition of what a maker space is. I don't want to throw that term out, assuming that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah. So I've been in education for about 30 years and about 25 as a classroom teacher, mostly high school physics and math. And I started off very traditional because that's what, I was taught that way. So I kept going that way, but I quickly shifted because I started, reading books and listening to podcasts and, getting in networks and talking to people beyond me to change how I was doing education. And, eventually worked my way to becoming what I've eventually learned was a maker educator, where we incorporate making in order to learn. A maker space is just any place that has materials and tools and space and fosters curiosity, creativity, and innovation, and allowing students to explore ideas, investigate ideas, screw up, make mistakes, make some trouble, and just develop the learning in a natural kind of way, because making is natural. We were all born makers, and we just stopped doing it for some reason in school. It's not a new pedagogy. Some people complain that it's a new pedagogy, but it's not. Yeah. It's a different pedagogy than what most people are doing. And it's not, I say it's not new because it really is just a mashup of Dewey, Montessori, Papert, Piaget, Vygotsky. All those people we were taught had good ideas about how learning happens. So makerspaces can be anywhere and is everywhere. I think I try to say the whole school environment is a makerspace. Outdoors, you need outdoor spaces. You need indoor hallways can be makerspaces. I mean, when I was in the classroom, I had the freedom to get outside of my classroom, let the kids out, basically. We'd work in the hallways, we'd work in the auditorium, we'd work in the gym, whatever we had to do to make and create what we needed to do. So I was very lucky in that sense. I know there are many teachers who can't get outside the room. But every room can be some kind of a makerspace, and every makerspace is different. If you and your neighbor teacher are both kind of doing maker, it's going to look different, and you're going to have different stuff and be doing different things. There is no one solid makerspace. It's just places that allow you to foster those things we need to foster in the students, and giving them not only the physical space, but also the mental space to explore stuff.
I love that. And you so graciously helped me literally unwrap a cart that I have as a mobile maker space on wheels, but it just happens to be in my STEM lab because I have the beautiful gift of teaching over 350 kindergarten through fifth grade students STEM curriculum. And yet many people, as you mentioned, assume that should only happen in my room. And it can be anywhere, anyhow. another assumption or maybe misconception is that it should only be in the elementary because it's quote unquote craft time. And yet you, I know, got to have some great work time with some of our junior high school students when you came to visit my school corporation, and have been out, in the school districts working with any subject, any classroom, any grade level. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's been such a joy to see kids connect with learning. I've seen you connect maker spaces or the maker mentality with novels, with foreign language, with math, with social studies. Share with us maybe just some really neat experiences that you've been able to either witness or help plan. It doesn't have to be this school year, but maybe just recently.
As you mentioned, it goes K-12, it goes pre-K-12, it goes pre-K to adult. It really is the best way for us to learn is through making something. Like you said, English class. It was really great to get into a 6th grade language arts class that were reading a book, and I brought in all the cardboard materials and all the craft materials, and the prompt was make something from the book and tell us why it's important to the book. So all kids got to make whatever they felt was important in the book, and then talk about it, because that's the whole point behind learning. The learning happens in conversations. It happens in discussions students have with each other, and discussions students have with their teacher. And that's hard for teachers to grasp, because we've always been taught the kids are going to learn what you tell them. We've always been taught the didactic kind of method of lecture, and that's not the best learning. And we know that in the back of our mind, but it's in the front of our mind. It's like, I got to tell them every single thing. It's like, no, let them explore, let them query, let them ask, talk less, and let the kids do most of the talking, and ask lots of questions, because questions are so important.
Yes.
One thing that drives me nuts, my little pet peeve, is educators will talk about the 4 C's of education: creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. And those are awesome and massively important. But I keep saying, you're forgetting the most important C, the one that drives all of those, and without which nothing would happen. And that's curiosity. And so we need to let the kids be curious and ask questions and explore some things. I mean, I love being able to say, what happens if? I said, I don't know, try it.
Yes.
You got to go. Now, what happens if I add some dynamite is not the thing you let them go do. But, you've got to, sometimes I feel like education is playing bumper bowling, and we are the bumpers. And our job is just to keep them kind of in this space, kind of here, but keep going that way. Not this narrow line, but a really wide line, and get lots of different learning.
That's a great visual. I love that.
In math class, when I taught math, you've got to learn, the geometry kids have to learn about all the quadrilaterals. Well, their job was to design a building that used every quadrilateral as a room, be able to calculate the area, and be able to actually make the quadrilateral a quadrilateral, not just draw it and tell me it was that shape. You had to tell me the properties.
Yeah.
But I wanted the building to be something. So it could be anything they wanted it to be, and that's like, that blows their mind at first. I'm like, go to a house. Make a house. I said, I don't care what it is. So you get rave centers, you get gaming centers, you get art palace. I mean, just whatever. The kid puts himself into it. And that's the other great thing about Maker, is they invest in it and put what they like in it. So you get to learn about your students. One student made an equestrian center one year. I never knew they showed horses. And I would not have known that they showed horses. And they're talking about what rooms were needed in the barn and in the center, and all the different names for the rooms and all this, and all that from just let's learn about the quadrilaterals. But then they're like, can I make a logo for my stable? I'm like, oh, we have to talk about symmetry now.
Yeah.
So again, the curiosity just kind of rolls as long as you can keep fostering, that. That's massively important. Physics, we always start with building stuff. We got to learn about motion. We got to make things that move. We're not just going to do lectures about it and watch simulations and that. We're going to make things that move. And like mousetrap cars was one thing that we did. And it's great because every kid comes to it from where they're at.
Yes.
That's important about Maker. Kids come to it from where they're at.
Yeah, with the connections they already have in their brain, right?
What they already got, what they already know. And our job is to take them far further, to do more with it, to add some more to that from where they're at. And when you lecture about Newton's laws, you're telling them this is where the only place you can be. And you've got to start here. And we lose so many kids because they're not there yet.
Yeah.
So it's great to let them start where they're at. And so like the kid that is going to be the artist, they're trying to make this thing look nice and be pretty. And can I paint this? Can I add stickers? Like, yeah, go. The kid that is going to be the engineer, and they're going to be the engineer because mine's going to go further than everybody else's. How do I get this? How far do I got to go? Oh, I'm going farther than that. And it's where they're at, and you can get them all to the point where they need to be. But it's great because we can meet them where they're at. We had one mousetrap car that would not go straight. No matter what we did. It would just go out, go in a circle. They try to fix it. It would go a circle the other way. And we're like, it's got to go a certain distance because we have to time it and do all these other things. And I'm like, how about circumference? Did it go the distance in the circumference? And they're like, oh, yes, it did. And not everything's going to be the same.
Oh,
And that also is hard for teachers.
it is. And one of the things I got to experience, and I think that sometimes I'm seeing a lot more of like, the making to connect with content at the end of the year, like in the spring, which is fine because it's being done. But something that we did is, we in person got you into our school in February, and you had already been in so many schools since August. And what I noticed is conversation between students and their families goes way up.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I have a 6th grader and a 9th grader. Both of them participated in activities where they had to physically create a product of something in their subject area. So my daughter had to make a tiny house in geometry, and my son had to make like a shoebox biome after researching and studying. So the entry level point of why I'm sharing all this with you is that on the way home, when I was like, hey, how was school today? First thing that they talked about with me, they couldn't wait to share, like, oh gosh, like, so now I'm an architect and I'm building this tiny house and you would not believe this, and just like the biome, my kiddo picked a specific one where he was like, I have no idea how I'm going to find critters to put into this shoebox that I'm creating. And I was like, well, I'm like, what do I have in my room that maybe you could use or borrow? And he was like, well, you've got that clay. And I'm like, yeah, turns out like my child can sculpt. I was like, wow. So the conversation that came out of it was just so much more robust than just, how was school today? Fine. That whole idea. Okay, you said something that really struck a chord with me, that meet students where they're at. How do we meet teachers where they're at when it comes to the idea of adding this idea of making into their classroom?
That is the question, right?
Yeah.
You need one-on-one conversations because they need to shift. We need to shift thinking and how they do stuff. I was a couple of years ago, I was given a whole school PD about this to us on Zoom to a school out west. And partway through, one teacher's like, you want me to change pedagogy? Like, yeah, I want you to change how you're doing stuff. You know, as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, do better.
Yeah.
So how do you meet them? One, as you said, some stuff is happening at the end of the school year. So I want to say most teachers are already making something in the classroom.
Yeah.
They're already doing it a little bit.
Yeah, like point out that obvious, right?
Yeah, you're already making. Then that, as you mentioned with the kids in the conversations, having an artifact that can go home just takes the learning skyward. But here's the thing about what we call maker-centered learning. We're not going to do this after. We're going to do this the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's the center of the learning is the making and around that artifact. So the question I want to ask teachers is what can your kids design and create that allows you to have the topic conversations you want to have?
Oh, I love that.
And so we're going to design and make something. So that's the center of it. And then we have all these conversations around it. And those conversations aren't just about your subject area, because learning in a silo, there is no learning. You've got to make the connections to other stuff as the world actually exists. So you got to be open to all those areas of conversation. So you're already making. Now let's just take it from the end and bring it to the center. And I don't need you to change every lesson. I need you to change one lesson. Start with one. One unit, one lesson, one activity. Let's just start with one and bring it to the center, bring the making, and see how you feel afterwards about the conversations and about the growth that you see in the kids and the things you find out about the kids. Like you said, you didn't know your kid could sculpt. No, because they never had a chance to do it. You know, they don't know how to use tape until they get tape. They don't know how to use anything until they get to use it. And I find that's one of the things that we massively lack. You know, we're talking about skills down the road for kids to have jobs. Well, they develop from the beginning, not later on. So we got to start them early. We got to get them. I had seniors in high school who never touched a hammer. Dad won't let me touch the hammer. Like, sorry, here's a hammer. Get to work. You got to make something.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh, I love that you talked about that maker mindset and just how it, it supports not only creativity and problem solving, but that curiosity. And that is so important after that traditional K-12 education, right? Regardless of where you go next step. And I love that this thinking, this start with one lesson, no matter what your subject area is, where your classroom might be in the building, maybe traditionally what you've done in the past at week one, lesson one, day one. Think about how this could just one little lesson could just really spark a whole chain of thought process that every time you plan, you think, what is something that kids could be creating, curious about, making that envelops everything that I'm trying to drive home when it comes to a topic?
It can be paper. It can be cardboard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be laser cutters and 3D printers. I mean, the biggest material that people use is cardboard.
And that whole call for like toilet paper rolls, right?
Toilet
Like,
paper rolls.
yeah, bottle caps, like the plastic bottle
Yeah.
caps off of water bottles.
I mean, you can make cars with just some cardboard and some bottle tops and some skewers or straws. I mean, and that could be talking about the history of auto manufacturing. That could be talking about ergonomics. That could be the science of motion. Just having that artifact makes the brain do more. That's important.
I love that.
Making opens up multiple points of the brain at the same time. Lecture opens up none. So maybe one. So when you get those multiple points open from making, you now have multiple anchors and multiple connections.
I remember it was just even down in Bloomington. Like I think I shared with you, I took an anatomy class, and the lecture met 2 mornings and the lab met 2 mornings. And so Monday through Thursday, I was, connected with anatomy in some shape or form, right? And the lecture for me was, in a big lecture hall, and it was auditory, and but the lab, I mean, I was standing in the presence of actual physical models, a real cadaver. Like, it was just so much more than sit and get. And I saw that in my grade. I mean, my lecture grade was totally different than my lab grade. And so that was my little testimony of, just at the very early phases of seeing and being a part of that at the university level. The K-12 level is one that I would love to see continue to grow. So share with us a little bit about the Uplands Maker Mobile and how this came about to be able to get to districts such as mine and others that where you can, spread this joy and share this message of making with teachers and students and admin.
The Uplands Maker Mobile mobile makerspace was started 4 years ago, I think, at IU School of Education. Adam Maltese is the professor who is in charge of it. He's my boss. He started it. I did not start at the beginning. I came in December 22. I'm from Northeast Ohio. This is what I wanted to do back in Northeast Ohio, was get a mobile makerspace, and I couldn't get one going, so they had one, and I came over to run it. The idea of the mobile makerspace is we go to K-12 schools and help educators integrate making and integrate STEM. And the hard selling point is we come help do anything. If you just need a second set of hands for a lesson that you're not used to, we'll come be the second set of hands. If you need us to do more of the planning, we will do that. You want us to co-plan, we'll do that. And then co-teach, we'll do that. You want us to bring the materials and tools, we'll do that. I could just come and just be, like I said, a second set of hands is anything, because teachers need help.
Yeah.
It's especially when you go to this kind of hands-on interactive maker project-based learning, it's hard to get around to 20, 30 kids and help them where they're at if you're only one person. So if you get a second set of hands, a second set of eyes, it makes that much easier to do, because basically now you split the class in half and you get more coverage. We also bring expertise of, like I said, 30 years in education, years and years of being a maker, and ideas of how to make. Now, the hard part about it is, just like with all teaching, you don't want to exactly tell the kids exactly how to do something.
Right.
You want to let them try and fail. Failure is massively important for our kids. We need to let them fail more often. And again, when I was when I started out teaching, failure was not in my vocabulary. No, there's no failure allowed. But you got to revisualize what we mean by failure. In the short term, you're going to fail. That car is not going to go as far as you want it to go the first time. It's not going to work. The experiment's not going to work. Whatever you make, it's not going to work right the first time. Get used to that. And that's what a lot of kids will say. I had to get used to failure.
Yeah.
But then you fix it. You fail and fix it. And you learn through that. I try to tell kids, if they got stuff right the first time, they didn't learn anything. They already knew it. So let's learn. So that means we got to fail at some things and make things go wrong. And the more you do, the more you learn, the less you're going to fail. And
now, I know something that you may or may not have been able to be a part of, but because you are this, it got this incredible opportunity to physically travel around and visit multiple schools. Something that I love to do is, once a project, and it could even be like solving a math problem or responding to, a debate that has been staged over a topic in a novel. It doesn't matter what it is. but I've loved to be able to bring students together, give them feedback on their work, and then show some examples. And all those examples that I show are not correct, perfect. Some of them are incorrect. Some of them are imperfect. Some of them are, well done. But I mean, that word perfect is usually to never used in my classroom, because we always are like taking a look at, oh, so and so got a correct answer, because maybe in math there was only one way, 2 plus 2 is always going to be 4. So and so got 4, but they got it a different way than I did. Like they did 3 plus 1, or they did, a different strategy. And I love the strategy sharing that comes out of it. Share with us, in a maker space mentality or in a maker world, the concept, like just the beauty of strategy sharing with students, either while they're working or upon, maybe what time has added as a constraint to be like, okay, we're done with this now because of time. But share with us, what is the power of that strategy sharing that maybe you've been able to be a part of or experience?
Well, as you said, perfection is not the goal. Perfect is the enemy of done. So we try to get them.
Quote that. I like that.
If somebody else has said it, and we just keep going, keep it going. So the learning can happen even if the artifact is not perfect. All the learning you want to happen can still happen, even if they don't get to finish their car, finish their painting, finish their diorama, whatever. All the learning can happen, because again, the learning is in the conversations. The other great thing about making is it's naturally collaborative.
Yeah.
Kids will naturally share what they're doing, why they're doing, how they're doing, while this is all happening. And they all want to share. It comes out partly because they're so used to being told don't talk.
Right.
But now again, this is shifting the dynamic in the classroom. In a maker-centered learning environment, everybody's a learner and everybody's a teacher. And you got to get used to that. So like you said, having them do that sharing, they're teaching their classmates about ideas and where their thinking is coming from, on how to do something, because they're all coming, like I said, from different points. So
yeah,
it's really important to be able to have time. As you said, time is a big constraint. And the first time you do a maker-centered learning, it's going to take twice as long as you think it will.
Truth.
For many reasons, one of which you're new to it, two of which kids are new to it, so they don't know what, and also they've never worked with the materials and the tools, so they don't know how to use them.
Yeah, that explore time is always so important before you just throw in there. And it's not guided, as you've mentioned. It's just like, hey, like with my Vex pieces, for example, the first time my third graders ever see them, one class period is dedicated to just play with the pieces, get to know the pieces. Right.
Now,
and
it does get really annoying when there's one kid sitting with the cardboard cutter and just keeps cutting little pieces of cardboard. I'm like, okay, you've cut 100 little pieces of cardboard. Time to stop. You're just making a mess right now. But yeah, that collaboration and sharing, because we get to learn how other people think about things and the way they look at it. And it helps to change ours. First of all, to see that there's other ways of looking at something. And that's why, again, I try not to tell them the right way to do something, because there's not always one right way. There's maybe my right way. But I want them to tell me how they did it and tell their neighbor how they did it.
Yeah. Even if they came up with even if like you were talking about with the car, they just kept going in a circle. Like if it's not right, I love that concept of students standing up and saying, okay, this is not completing the criteria. I'm fully aware of that. This is what I'm thinking. These are some ideas I have about how to go back and continue to work on it, but lay it on me. Like, what do you have for me? And it's been so neat to hear students, like so invested in someone else's creation or another team's project when maybe it's a race competition or something,
Right.
where that person, if you make it better, they could beat your car.
Well,
Like, I love that kind of.
they find that at robotics competitions that
Yeah.
other teams will help other teams, even with physical parts that this broke and the team doesn't have a spare, and the other team, oh yeah, here, you can have ours. Because that's actually in our nature, in human nature, to help others. So it's so great when in the classroom you can have that. I remember one time, 7th or 8th grade class, we're doing a project, and there's always that kid who never wants to get into the project, never wants to do anything, struggles with everything. And it's a multi-step project because they all are. Grow up, build this, then add this, then make this, then do this. And they all had to come to me and say, okay, I've done this, I got this, and this is next, kind of thing. And he was nearby, and one kid came to me and said, this is what I've done, this is where I'm going, this is my next step. And this kid who always struggles said, I can help them with that. And I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Go. And that's a comment you'll get from a lot of teachers, that they were so engaged with what we were trying to do. They're never that engaged in class. Well, if you ever done maker learning, then that could be why. They were attentive. They tried, they learned, they asked questions. Yeah. This is for everybody. This is not just for the gifted. This is not just for the A+ students. This is not just for the remedial. This is for everybody. Everybody loves making. Kids of all ages, all sizes, all whatever, love making. Now, if they love stuff, shouldn't we incorporate that into the learning to help them actually enjoy learning?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they like making stuff, so let's utilize that. And one of the great things and one of the bad things about maker is there's so many modalities of making.
Yeah.
Laser cutting, 3D printing, vinyl cutting, coding, different robotics, different kind of coding. There's popsicle sticks, there's pipe cleaners, there's painting, there's music, there's woodworking, there's sculpting, there's sewing, there's crochet. There's just such a multitude, which is great because every kid should be able to find what they're good at, as long as we allow them to do stuff. It's bad because teachers feel the need to be the expert at everything before kids do it.
Yes.
And you've got it again. It's changing that mindset. We are making puzzle pieces, wooden puzzle pieces. It's like you make like 6 pieces, and they go together to make a 3x3x3 cube. And some were coloring it with a marker, some were doing this. And one kid said, "Can I hydro dip it?" I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Well, what is hydro dip? Oh, well, you put some paint or nail polish in water, and then you just. So I said, yeah, look, see if you can find a bowl in the room that'll work. And obviously I have lots of junk in my classroom. So they found a bowl and they put it in. They've got some nail polish out of their purse and their friend's purse, and dripped it in. And then they were teaching 6 other kids how to hydro dip their pieces.
Oh my golly. That is awesome. And you learned something too.
Yeah. It's in a maker centered environment. Everybody's a teacher and everybody's a learner.
Oh, I love that. Well, as we come to the end of our conversation, I would love to remind our teachers that are listening today that this, adding a maker space to any classroom isn't something in addition to what you're already doing. We just encourage you to reflect upon your year. At what point during this past school year did you get things out and that students actually created? And maybe it was, just a symbol or a badge, and it just seemed 2-dimensional. And you were like, well, I don't know that constitutes making. But maybe it was, building a tiny house with popsicle sticks or air drying clay. And no matter where it is, we just encourage you to continue to start with one lesson and one activity and go from there and continue to keep kids curious. Paul, I want to end with a challenge that you gave to me as well as some of the teachers in my building. You asked me to ask not only myself, but my teachers to open up all of the cabinet doors, to get onto those shelves, and to do what?
There's stuff all over the place in the school.
There's stuff everywhere.
We don't know what's there. Because someone put it there 5
Exactly.
years ago, and that person left.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to get the permission to go open up every cabinet in the building and find what's there, because teachers get siloed in their room and don't know what's available to them. And you have administrators that say, oh yeah, they could use that. Do they even know it's there?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, when you're cleaning up your classroom at the end of the year, dedicate an area for just making. And we would love to hear the great things that you have, not only in idea form, but maybe that you have completed with students or that you plan to complete with students. I know, Paul, would you care to share how to get in touch with you with the Uplands Maker Mobile?
The easiest email would be makervan, literally maker and then van because it's a van, at iu.edu. Yeah, it's a van that just brings me and materials. It's not a van that we go in and work.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, because I had that misconception,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful.
Pull everything, we pull whatever we need out of the van and either do it out there or take it into the building.
Amazing. Well, we will share all of the resources and information. And Paul, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do for teachers, for students, and especially for our Keep Indiana Learning community. Teachers, thank you so much for tuning in. No matter where you are on your making journey, we are just so grateful that you chose to spend a small part of your day listening and thinking with us. Paul, thank you so much for your time. And I hope that maybe we could turn this into another conversation, maybe a series, right?
There's always more we can talk about.
Always. Well, we wish you a very, very, very safe and wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, I'm Amy Stevens. I appreciate you joining us. Bye.
Thanks for having me.